In the heart of Ashwood, a town known for its silent streets and close-knit community, Officer Daniel Mercer was a figure of unwavering trust. His presence brought comfort to residents who believed that nothing sinister could ever disturb their peaceful lives. But on a cold autumn morning, Mercer submitted his resignation without warning, leaving behind a cryptic note and a trail of unanswered questions. The shock rippled through Ashwood, unsettling even the most stoic townsfolk. Rumors began to swirl, whispers of strange occurrences, late-night patrols gone awry, and a darkness that seemed to linger just beyond the edge of town. What could drive a respected officer to abandon his post so suddenly? As the investigation unfolds, the truth behind Officer Mercer's departure reveals itself to be far more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. Ashwood sits shrouded in perpetual mist, its narrow streets winding through silent neighborhoods where the wind seems to carry secrets. The town's history is marked by a chilling pattern, unsolved disappearances stretching back decades, each case leaving behind only unanswered questions and grieving families. Residents speak in hushed tones about the legends that have taken root here, stories of shadowy figures glimpsed at the edge of the woods, and eerie laughter echoing from abandoned buildings late at night. Police reports document the missing, but no trace is ever found, fueling a growing sense of dread. Archive footage reveals faded photographs of those lost, their faces now part of Ashwood's folklore. The atmosphere is heavy, as if the town itself is holding its breath, waiting for the next name to be added to the list. What is it about Ashwood that draws darkness so persistently, and why do the whispers never fade? Officer Daniel Mercer was known throughout the quiet town of Ashvale for his unwavering dedication and calm authority. Colleagues described him as meticulous, a man who never left a case unsolved and whose presence brought a sense of safety to even the most troubled streets. His career spanned nearly 2 decades, marked by commendations and a reputation for integrity that rarely wavered. Residents recalled his gentle manner with children and his relentless pursuit of justice for the vulnerable. Mercer's devotion to the force was evident in his long hours and the sacrifices he made, often putting the needs of the town above his own. Yet, beneath the surface, some whispered of the toll the job was taking, subtle changes in his demeanor, sleepless nights, and a growing sense of unease. No one could have predicted how swiftly everything would unravel on that fateful night, leaving behind questions that still haunt Ashvale's silent streets. Police records reveal a portrait of Officer Thomas Mercer as a model of professionalism. Over 15 years of service, his file is immaculate. Commendations for bravery, letters of gratitude from local families, and not a single disciplinary action. Colleagues describe him as reliable, even-tempered, and deeply committed to the quiet town he protected. Yet, in the winter of 2019, Mercer abruptly resigned, leaving behind a letter that offered no explanation. Investigators found no evidence of misconduct, nor any personal crisis that might justify his sudden departure. The absence of warning signs only deepens the mystery. What could drive a respected officer to vanish from a life he had built so carefully? In the weeks before the incident, Mercer's demeanor shifted dramatically. His former partner recalls late nights punctuated by restless pacing and whispered apologies to someone unseen. Mercer became increasingly withdrawn, avoiding even the simplest conversations and recoiling from touch. He confessed to vivid nightmares, shadowy figures lurking at the foot of his bed, cold hands reaching from the darkness. The partner describes how Mercer's eyes grew hollow, his voice trembling with a fear he refused to name. Police reports later noted his declining mental state, but no one could have predicted what was to come. What exactly haunted Mercer's dreams, and did it follow him into waking life? Mercer's patrol route wound through the heart of the abandoned industrial district, a place locals avoided after dark. The skeletal remains of factories loomed overhead, casting long shadows across cracked pavement. Residents whispered of strange noises, metal scraping, distant laughter, and the echo of footsteps that never seemed to belong to anyone. Police reports noted a pattern. Radios malfunctioned, flashlights flickered, and patrol dogs refused to enter certain alleys. Mercer's logbook detailed an uneasy silence, broken only by the occasional clang of unseen machinery. Eyewitnesses claimed to see fleeting figures darting between buildings, their faces obscured, their movements unnatural. As Mercer advanced deeper into the district, the air grew colder, and the sense of being watched intensified. What happened next remains a mystery, sealed within the darkness of those deserted streets. Investigators pored over hours of dashcam footage from Officer Mercer's final patrol, searching for any clue that might explain his disappearance. The video begins uneventfully, but soon, a persistent static creeps into the audio, distorting familiar sounds of the quiet town. At precisely 2:17 a.m., the radio crackles with a transmission. Fragmented words, barely intelligible, repeating phrases like, "not alone," and "behind the glass." Experts from the police department confirmed that these transmissions did not match any known frequency or protocol. Mercer's voice, usually calm, is heard asking for backup, but his request is swallowed by a surge of white noise. The footage ends abruptly, the last frame capturing Mercer's uneasy glance in the rearview mirror. To this day, no one has been able to decipher the origin of the cryptic messages, nor explain the chilling interference that plagued his final shift. In the early hours of November 12th, the dispatcher on duty received a frantic call from Officer Mercer. Her voice trembled, barely coherent, as she pleaded for immediate backup near the old mill on Hollow Creek Road. The line crackled with static, but it was the sound that followed, a guttural, unidentifiable noise that silenced the room. The dispatcher, seasoned by years of late-night emergencies, described the interruption as unlike anything she had ever heard. It was not the shriek of an animal, nor the echo of machinery, but something colder, more deliberate. The call ended abruptly, leaving only a hollow silence and the chilling certainty that Mercer was no longer alone. To this day, the dispatcher cannot forget the final seconds before the line went dead, nor explain the source of that sound. The body cam footage begins with Officer Mercer stepping into the derelict warehouse, his breath visible in the cold, stagnant air. The beam of his flashlight cuts through the darkness, but it flickers uncertainly, casting shifting shadows along the crumbling walls. Each footstep echoes, amplifying the sense of isolation. In the footage, Mercer pauses, his attention drawn to a distant metallic clatter, though nothing appears in the frame. The warehouse is silent, save for the low hum of the wind pressing against broken windows. As Mercer ventures deeper, the camera captures fleeting glimpses of graffiti, strange symbols scrawled in haste. The footage ends abruptly, the flashlight's beam sputtering out, leaving only questions about what Mercer truly encountered in the darkness. Inside the warehouse, the air hangs heavy with neglect. Graffiti sprawls across crumbling walls, each symbol a silent testament to those who came before and vanished without a trace. Shards of broken glass litter the floor, catching the faint light and casting fractured reflections that seem to shift when no one is looking. The silence is oppressive, broken only by the distant echo of footsteps, sometimes near, sometimes impossibly far. Investigators recall the feeling of being watched, as if the shadows themselves were alive and waiting. Police reports mention unexplained cold spots and the sensation of breath on the back of the neck, though no one was ever found. What truly lurks in the darkness of this forgotten place remains a question that haunts everyone who enters. In the biting chill of early November, a local homeless man known only as Red was interviewed by police after a series of strange occurrences near the Mercer residence. Red, his voice trembling yet insistent, described seeing a shadowy figure standing motionless at an upper window, its outline barely distinguishable against the faded curtains. He claimed the figure watched Mercer for hours, never moving, never blinking, as if waiting for something. Red's account was met with skepticism, yet his details matched those of other witnesses who reported feeling an unexplainable sense of dread near the house. Archive footage shows Red pointing to the exact window, his eyes wide with fear. What was the figure's purpose, and why did it choose to reveal itself only to those living on the margins of society? The answers remain elusive, lingering in the cold silence that envelops Mercer's home. When officers arrived at the scene, they found Mercer standing alone in the dimly lit hallway, his skin unnaturally pale and his hands shaking uncontrollably. According to the official police report, Mercer refused to answer any questions about what had transpired inside the house. His silence was absolute, broken only by the occasional, involuntary shudder. The officers noted a strange, lingering chill in the air, as if the building itself was holding its breath. Despite repeated attempts to coax a statement, Mercer remained mute, his eyes fixed on a point just beyond their shoulders. What could have happened in those few minutes to leave a man so visibly shaken? The answer, it seemed, would remain locked behind Mercer's haunted gaze. Mercer's medical evaluation was conducted in the sterile, fluorescent-lit confines of the county hospital. Doctors noted clear signs of acute psychological trauma. His hands trembled uncontrollably, and his eyes darted nervously at every shadow. Yet, there were no physical injuries, no bruises, no evidence of assault. The absence of external harm only deepened the mystery. According to the attending physician, Mercer spoke in fragmented sentences, describing sensations he could not explain. His pulse raced, but his body bore no marks. What, then, had left him so broken? The official report ends with a chilling ambiguity. Patient displays symptoms consistent with severe psychological distress. Cause unknown. Mercer's wife sits quietly in the dimly lit kitchen, her voice trembling as she recalls the nights her husband could not sleep. She describes how he would pace the hallway, eyes darting to the shadows, convinced that something had followed him home from the old mill. He spoke of footsteps outside their bedroom door and whispered that he felt watched, even in the safety of their own house. She remembers how he refused to close his eyes, fearing what he might see if he did. Police reports later noted her growing concern, documenting her pleas for help as Mercer's paranoia deepened. Yet, despite her efforts, no one else ever saw or heard what haunted him. The question remains, what did Mercer bring back with him, and why did it choose to linger in the darkness of their home? Residents living near the Mercer home began to notice unsettling phenomena as dusk settled over the neighborhood. Flickering lights would dance behind drawn curtains, casting erratic shadows across the empty street. Some described sudden icy drafts sweeping through their own hallways, as if the cold from Mercer's house was seeping outward. Most disturbing were the reports of footsteps, heavy, deliberate, echoing from Mercer's porch and along the creaking floorboards inside, long after midnight. One neighbor, Mrs. Caldwell, recalled hearing the footsteps pause outside her window, lingering just a moment too long before fading into silence. Despite repeated police patrols, no explanation was ever found. The question remains, what or who was moving through Mercer's house after dark? Mercer's resignation letter arrived at the station late one November evening, its envelope stained and edges curled as if gripped too tightly. The handwriting inside was erratic, letters trembling across the page, betraying a mind in turmoil. Mercer spoke of a presence, something he could neither name nor escape, describing cold whispers in empty rooms and shadows that lingered long after the lights were switched on. He pleaded for understanding, insisting that his decision was not born of fear, but necessity. Police analysts noted the growing paranoia in his words, yet found no evidence of external threats. The letter ended abruptly, as if Mercer had been interrupted mid-sentence. To this day, no one knows what or who compelled him to flee. What was it that haunted Mercer so relentlessly, and is it still lurking in the quiet corridors he left behind? In a dimly lit office, Ashwood's police chief sits across from us, his hands clasped tightly together. He speaks with a measured tone, describing the mounting anxiety that has gripped his department. Officers, once confident and unshakable, now hesitate before responding to calls near the old mill or the abandoned railway. The chief admits, with a trace of unease, that official reports offer no rational explanation for the strange noises and sudden disappearances. He references late-night patrol logs filled with accounts of shadowy figures and chilling laughter echoing through empty streets. As the interview draws to a close, the chief's eyes linger on the window, as if searching for answers in the darkness beyond. What, he wonders, could be fueling this fear, if not something lurking just out of sight? In the cold archives of the district police station, a pattern begins to emerge. Reports dating back to the early 1970s detail officers encountering inexplicable phenomena: flickering lights in abandoned alleyways, chilling whispers echoing through empty streets, and sudden, overwhelming feelings of dread. One officer, in a faded interview transcript, describes seeing shadowy figures darting between derelict buildings, only to vanish when approached. Another recounts the sensation of being watched, even when alone on patrol. These accounts, dismissed as stress or fatigue at the time, were quietly filed away, never fully investigated. Yet, the frequency and consistency of these experiences suggest something far more sinister, lurking beneath the district's quiet exterior. What force has haunted these streets for generations, and why does it seem to target those sworn to protect them? In the quiet town of Marrow Creek, whispers of the Watcher in the shadows have persisted for generations. Locals speak of a faceless figure, glimpsed only at dusk, lurking among the crumbling warehouses that line the deserted district. Police reports document repeated sightings, yet each investigation ends with nothing but chilling silence and the faint echo of footsteps on broken glass. Elderly residents recall childhood warnings: never stray near the warehouses after dark, lest you feel the Watcher's gaze. Archive interviews reveal a pattern: missing pets, flickering lights, and a sense of being watched that grows stronger with each passing year. Despite skepticism, the folklore endures, feeding a collective unease that blankets the town. What is it about the Watcher that keeps Marrow Creek awake at night? And why, after all these years, has no one seen its face? On a bitterly cold night in late November, a local teenager, whose name we have withheld for privacy, reported a chilling encounter. According to their statement, they saw Mercer drifting along the deserted main street, his coat hanging loose, eyes fixed on something unseen. He was muttering under his breath, words too faint to decipher, but the tone was urgent, almost pleading. The teenager described an overwhelming sense of dread, as if Mercer was not alone, as if something unseen was walking beside him. Streetlights flickered as he passed, casting long, distorted shadows that seemed to move of their own accord. The witness hurried home, but the image of Mercer's haunted face lingered. What was he saying to the darkness, and who, or what, was listening? The security camera footage from Mercer's quiet neighborhood reveals more than just empty streets and swaying trees. In the grainy black and white images, a tall, indistinct silhouette appears at the edge of the frame, lingering just beyond the reach of the streetlights. Its movements are erratic, sometimes pausing, sometimes gliding silently past driveways and fences. Investigators noted the figure's unnatural height and the way it seemed to blur, almost as if the lens itself recoiled from its presence. Neighbors reported hearing soft footsteps outside their windows, yet, when they looked, nothing was there. The police reviewed hours of footage, but the silhouette never showed a clear face, never stayed long enough to be truly seen. What or who was haunting Mercer's streets that night? The answer remains hidden in the shadows. In the dim light of his study, local historian Edward Mallory recalls a chilling pattern that has haunted the town for decades. He points to faded maps and yellowed newspaper clippings, tracing the outline of the old warehouse, a place he believes is more than just a relic of industry. According to Mallory, the warehouse stands at the heart of a string of unsolved disappearances dating back to the 1950s. Families vanished without a trace, their last known whereabouts eerily close to the building's shadow. Police reports from the era mention strange noises and fleeting glimpses of figures moving behind broken windows. Mallory's voice trembles as he describes how the community learned to avoid the area after dark, whispering warnings that have never made it into official records. Yet, despite decades of speculation, no one has ever explained what truly happened inside those walls. When authorities entered the abandoned warehouse, they were met with a chilling sight. Strange, hand-drawn symbols covered the walls, their meaning unknown, but unmistakably sinister. Investigators discovered fresh footprints in the dust, along with discarded candles and remnants of burnt offerings. Clear signs that someone had been there recently, conducting rituals without permission. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and something metallic, lingering long after the flames had died. Police reports noted an unexplainable drop in temperature and a persistent, low humming noise that seemed to emanate from the shadows. Despite thorough searches, no suspects were found. The question remains: who or what had been inside that warehouse, and what were they trying to summon? In his final interview, conducted away from official channels, Detective Mercer spoke with a quiet urgency. He described an unshakable feeling of being watched, as if eyes lingered just beyond the edge of darkness. Mercer recounted a persistent chill that clung to him, a cold presence that seemed to follow wherever he went, even into the safety of his own home. The detective's voice trembled as he admitted that the sensation grew stronger after each visit to the abandoned mill, intensifying with every unanswered question. He confessed to hearing faint whispers at night, indistinct but unmistakably real. Mercer's account, though off the record, was meticulously documented by the interviewer, who noted the palpable fear in his demeanor. What or who was haunting Detective Mercer remains a mystery, one that would soon take a darker turn. Experts were brought in to dissect the psychological underpinnings of Mercer's case, searching for rational explanations behind the officer's disturbing accounts. Dr. Elaine Porter, a forensic psychologist, reviewed hours of interview footage, noting uncanny similarities in the officer's descriptions of Mercer's smile and the chilling atmosphere that seemed to envelop the station. Some theorized that the phenomenon was a textbook example of shared delusions, or folie à plusieurs, a rare condition where a group collectively experiences the same hallucination. Others suggested mass hysteria, triggered by the relentless stress and isolation of working in Ashwood's remote precinct. Yet, the consistency and detail in each testimony defied easy categorization, leaving investigators unsettled. Was this a psychological contagion, or something far more sinister seeping into the minds of those who crossed Mercer's path? The answer, it seemed, remained just out of reach. As the nights grew longer and the disappearances mounted, whispers of something unnatural began to circulate among the townsfolk. Some spoke in hushed tones of shadowy figures seen lurking near the old mill, while others claimed to hear laughter echoing from the woods long after midnight. The divide between believers and skeptics widened with each passing day. Local police dismissed the stories as hysteria, but for many, the fear was real. A cold certainty that something beyond explanation had taken root in their quiet town. Interviews with lifelong residents reveal a community fractured by suspicion and dread. Yet, despite the mounting evidence, no one could agree on what was truly haunting them. The question lingered: was the terror born from their own imaginations, or was something sinister watching from the darkness? As the investigation deepens, the most unsettling questions remain unanswered. What exactly did Mercer witness in the warehouse that left him shaken and silent? Despite increased security and official reports, the disturbances continue, defying logical explanation. Residents whisper about the Watcher, a figure glimpsed only in the periphery, never fully seen, yet always felt. Is this entity merely a product of collective fear? Or does something truly sinister linger in the shadows of this quiet town? Each clue uncovered seems only to deepen the mystery, leaving us wondering if the truth is far more terrifying than we ever imagined. Detective Mercer's hands trembled long after the case files were closed, haunted by memories that refused to fade. Colleagues recall how his once confident demeanor gave way to a quiet paranoia, glances over his shoulder, lights left burning through the night. Within the Ashwood Police Department, an unspoken dread settled in, thick as the morning fog that blanketed the town's empty streets. Officers whispered of strange noises echoing through the station after midnight, and of shadows that seemed to linger just outside the reach of the hallway lights. Some began to wonder if the darkness they'd confronted had truly been contained, or if it had simply found a new place to hide. The question remains, what exactly did Mercer bring back with him from the heart of Ashwood's secrets? The investigation into the Ashwood disappearances has reached a chilling impasse. Detective Mercer's warning, once dismissed as paranoia, now lingers in the minds of residents, echoing through the empty alleyways and frostbitten corners of the town. Despite exhaustive searches and countless interviews, the truth remains elusive, shrouded in silence and fear. Recently, new reports have emerged, unexplained footprints in the snow, flickering lights in abandoned homes, and the faint sound of laughter where no one should be. The air grows heavier each night, as if the town itself is holding its breath. With the case still open and Mercer's words haunting every shadow, Ashwood waits, uncertain of what will come next. The warehouse stands silent, its broken windows reflecting the pale glow of the moon. Mist curls around the rusted doors, swallowing the last traces of daylight. Inside, the echoes of footsteps and whispered voices seem to linger, haunting the empty corridors where Officer Daniel Mercer was last seen. Despite exhaustive searches and countless interviews, no trace of him has ever been found. The official reports offer little comfort, filled with speculation and unanswered questions. Residents of the town still speak in hushed tones about that night, some claiming to hear strange noises drifting from the warehouse after dark. As the fog thickens, one question remains, chilling and unresolved. What truly happened to Officer Mercer within these walls?